Hey everyone, welcome to eLearnChat, where you always learn something new. And today we've got a great guest. He's been on before. He's an old friend. We've got David Kelly, who is the Executive Director for the eLearning Guild. Here we go. This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation at www.relate.com, your training and video partner. And we are back. Hey, Dave, how are you?
All right, how are you, Rick?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you again, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in about, 3 weeks in beautiful Las Vegas.
It's a couple of weeks away.
Yeah. So how have you been?
I've been doing good. I mean, we were talking before we got into the show. I look a little older than the last time we chatted on that. I saw the nice fresh opening that you had since the last time I was on the show, and I feel like I'm a little less fresh in my look, but yeah, for me.
We're always trying to change something, and it's fun. You know, we build a lot of this stuff, and doing the shows are fun. We've been doing this now over a decade, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. And we have this and a couple of other shows, and we're adding some more stuff. I just built a studio at home again. I had one at home for years, got rid of it, and just rebuilt it again, because half the time at night I feel like doing something, and I can't. I didn't have it set up right, so now we set it up. So it'll be fun. You'll be seeing more of me, or probably too much more of me. But we're looking forward to doing that. Well, hey, DevLearn's coming up again. Exciting.
It is.
Exciting.
Yeah.
What's new for this year?
Well, it's the 15th anniversary of the show, so we've got everything that people always love about DevLearn, but a little bit more, some special stuff that we got going on for the 15th anniversary. We got a lot of great different programmatic things. I mean, if you look at our keynote lineup, we've got our first robot keynote, which is going to be very interesting. We've got Sophia the robot.
Sophia the robot, interesting.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how having a robot as a keynote works out. I'm very intrigued by it. It should be a lot of fun. Then we've got a whole 3 other women who are going to be highlighting our keynote lineup. We've got Talithia Williams, who's going to do one on data and the future of work. We've got Helen Papagiannis, who's going to be doing about how augmented reality is changing just the shape of how we work. And then to close things out, we've got Kate O'Neill, who's going to be talking about the human element of technology. We focus so much on how the technology is changing what we do. It's very easy to lose the human element within that. So she's going to kick us off as we go at the end of the conference towards.
Well, that's a really good trio, too, because you're hitting kind of the future, where we're going with all this, what's really hot right now with the augmented and the virtual and everything else, and the AI, of course, with Sophia. And then you've got the human part of it, which it's so funny. Everybody forgets that part of it. So,
absolutely.
So that's good, because we don't know where we're going with this stuff. It's going to be interesting to see, what humanity brings onto itself next, right?
It really is. And I mean, it's interesting you say that we don't know. I mean, there's always all these predictions that are, the future's going to bring this, future's going to bring that. It's all guesswork. I mean, it may be educated guesses,
right,
but it's still guesses. And the thing that I always say when people have a conference like this, it's not about this technology is going to do this for you. It's this technology does this. What does it mean for you? Put it in your own context and see what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what works for you, what doesn't work for your organization. We're not there to tell people what to do. We're there to give them the information so that they can educate themselves and make the decision on their own.
Right. And then, of course, you've got the Luddites who refuse to get off of DOS. I was on a flight not long ago next to an accountant, and he goes, I still use DOS. I looked at him like, you still use DOS? He goes, yep, I'm not getting off my programs. They work. Nothing's changed in accounting in 1,000 years, so I'm happy. Okay.
Yes.
It was an interesting conversation we had. He was just raving about WordPerfect. I don't know what version it was, but DOS, and
wow.
And his accounting package. I don't remember what he had, but it was DOS, and I was going, wow, and happy. I guess you can find old versions of DOS. So, guy was in heaven, and you just go, the world's kind of moving around, but that guy was not moving off of what he knew. And e-learning people can be to a certain point similar. You still hear people saying, authorware was it, or, whatever, one of the old tools, HyperCard. I wish we had HyperCard back. Well, it's still there, sort of. But it is interesting how things change, and a lot of people don't want to do the change, and yet things happen. Change happens.
Oh, it definitely is. I was just at a session I did for an organization earlier this week. We had that very conversation came up. And the thing that I said to him, I said, look, you might be in an environment where you don't need to change. Things aren't going, maybe your culture doesn't need to push forward and what you're doing today is fine. But you're probably not going to work there the rest of your life. It might be fine for where you are, but it may not be fine for where you need to go. Right. And you need to always be thinking about what's next and being ready for it. And that's a lot of what people come to DevLearn for, is to kind of see not only how I can do more of what I'm doing today more effectively, but also how are things changing and what do I need to do to prepare myself for it.
Yeah. How many people do you plan on coming this year? I know last year was record numbers, wasn't it?
It was until this year, which are record numbers.
That's great.
We are expecting a very big crowd this year. I mean, we're at least 4,000, but if the trends are continuing, it'll probably be upwards of 4,500 people in the building this year. Wow, great.
That's really good. So that tells me the budgets are getting better out there, because remember when the economy was bad, nobody was going to a trade show. It was sad. And they're all starting to get full and busy again, which is really good.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great. The more people that are there, the more people that are sharing, the more we're learning.
I got a notice yesterday saying, no more hotel rooms at the Mirage. I went, really? That's good. The block was full for you guys. So that's pretty amazing. So that's a lot of rooms.
Block. I mean, we still have people who want to come, which is great. So we had to get another block at Treasure Island, and there's always the Venetian and
right.
Some of the other places around that people can always get another hotel room. But yeah, it's always one of those good thing, bad thing for us, where we sold out of the Mirage, but now we want people to still come to the conference, and people still want to come to the conference. So we find the other places that are nearby. Yep. Treasure Island's just a short walk next door. There's a tram there if you don't want to take that walk.
That's right. Yep. Yeah,
one of the things about Vegas, you look on a map and Treasure Island is right next to the Mirage, but then in Vegas time, in terms of a walk, that's not as close as it tends to look.
It's a walk. It's not too bad. I've done that walk. It's not that bad, but if it's really hot, well, it won't be that hot, hopefully. It could get hot. But you're right. There's a really cool tram that goes from one to the other and all the way down to, I think, the Luxor. It was kind of neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's fun. So we always talk about this, but what do you see as some of the newer things happening in the industry right now that you'll be focusing on a little bit, aside from the virtual reality and augmented? What other things are you seeing that look like they're coming or they're recoming and becoming big again, or just becoming big?
Well, the biggest trend isn't, for me at least, the biggest trend that I'm focusing on isn't so much of the one thing, because we've been through this period of here's this new thing, here's this new thing. Now we're kind of in an environment where all these different things happening at the same time, and how between the data conversation, the AI conversation, you mentioned AR and VR. We've got all these different buzzwords that are going around micro-learning, workflow learning, all these different things, all these trends that are shaping how we approach our work, all connected to how work itself is changing. And we have to support that new world. So for me, we talk around most of the buzzword that comes around like personalized. And I don't like to put it in that context because I don't think we're there yet technologically. Yeah. But the ability for you to tailor a solution based on all these different components that work in your own context. It's a unique environment because there's a lot of tools that people have available to them. Some of them that can do really powerful things in a narrow context, others that are more broad. And the definition of what we look at as a technology-based learning program continues to expand at a rapid rate, which is a really exciting time to be in the field.
Yeah, definitely a lot of changes going on. And corporations, it's interesting because for many years it was the LMS is the next big thing, and it came and went, and it's a thing. You just need it. But it hasn't been the big thing. They're all very similar. They can all do kind of the similar things, the same things. And there are bigger and smaller ones and in-between ones and some custom ones. But people have moved on. It's just now accepted. You need an LMS. And then what else do you need? Do you need tools? Do you need what? And then, of course, there's the e-learning part, but there's also the instructor-led part, which has also adapted and merged with blended learning and other things. And, of course, micro-learning. That's the big buzzword for about a year, and the user experience part of it. It's kind of interesting. What are
Yeah,
some of
but
the more interesting presentations people can expect to see that you think?
well, we just did a session survey so we can help plan our rooms there to make sure that we understand which ones are more popular. So some of them definitely set out. The trend that I see coming off a lot of the popular sessions are those trending topics. There are some that are the core on how do I do what I'm doing today with the tools I have available. The type of things that are generally popular this year, we see a lot of stuff on the tools that people are using today. They want to know how to use them better. The types of things of doing more with less, that's always popular, but seems to be especially popular this year, of how do I do what I do with the limited resources that I have available. And of course, there's always the popular sessions, especially at DevLearn, because DevLearn's about shaping what's next, of some of the more forward-leaning technologies that people just want to understand, make sense of. What problem is this new tech that's emerging going to solve for me that I can't do today? Or what does it do for me that enhances my practice and makes a benefit to my organization? And those are very, very popular to our conference.
One of the things that I see as a big one that people don't really talk about much, and that's retraining instructional designers to be more technically alert and aware of all the new technologies available and how to write for them, how to create training that utilizes a lot of different platforms, a lot of different ideas and ways to do things. I think we're kind of remiss in that area as an industry on the whole of training people to look at that.
Yeah, we just did a research report. Jane Bozarth, our research director, a couple of months ago, just did a research report on the instructional design role, looking at a number of different just went out and looked at what people are recruiting for instructional designers. And it's interesting to see how many different things that used to be in somebody in a defined role are suddenly just kind of getting into the instructional designer role. The idea of what an instructional designer does today is a much broader array of skills and tasks than what the old school instructional design by definition was. So I totally agree that there's an expanding skill set that today's IDs need to support and develop that is very different than it was even 10 years ago. And a lot of it is being driven by organizations taking advantage of these higher end technologies that require a different skill set.
Yeah. What do you see as the role of video? I keep thinking video will become more and more important, whether it's in an augmented or virtual reality sense or just in ways of doing quick training through video scenarios or other things. Where do you see that going?
You know, I think video is going to be, it already is a major component of what we do. I just think as the technologies continue to advance, it's just going to become more so. I mean, even when you think about some of the stuff that goes on around how video is searchable, the ability, the increasing availability of being able to search a video by the transcript that's attached to it rather than just the title and the description makes it be able to be used in the context of performance support at a much higher degree in terms of being able to learn something. If I'm trying to find a video to help me do a particular task and I can only search by the title or who the video is from, that limits my ability to find that. But if I'm able to search a video based on someone describing the problem that I'm having, and it tells me where in the video that person said that, that takes video as a tool for learning and solving problems to a much higher degree than it is today. And that's not, that tech is there today. It's just not necessarily mainstream. It's not like if I go to a Google search today, that happens all the time. But we're getting there. And when it does, I think it's going to be transformative in terms of how useful video can be in the context of learning and development.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. So what do you think the biggest thing this year for the participants in the conference is going to be? What do you think will tweak their interest or fancy the most?
You know, I think the thing that people always come back to me when they talk about DevLearn, there's two elements that always come back. And even though the trends might change, the takeaways always stay in the same zone. One are the people that you meet. The people that you meet that are always curious, that help you tap into your own curiosity and become resources to learn from throughout there. It's just, people use the phrase often at DevLearn is I come there because that's where my tribe meets. And there's that feeling of that. So there's always the people, regardless of how the trends change. But then there's also the challenge that is expressed there, because the technologies change, but the people who come, they see that there's these technologies that are changing not only how we educate and train people, but just how we live and learn our daily lives. and think about how that changes their practice. The questions that people leave DevLearn with aren't how do I do what I do through these new technologies, but how do these new technologies change what I should be doing? And it helps push not only individuals' practices forward, but the practice of our industry as a whole.
Now, is anything changing in the way? Because I know that there's been a merger with the other group that acquired some of the shows, and you have a sister show now in England, which is very similar to the Learning Technology show. What differences, if any, have that caused to DevLearn?
Nothing that most people would see. I mean, it's more of a parent company type of an environment with CloserStill Media. So DevLearn is DevLearn, and it's continuing to be the #1 show, in my opinion. Granted, I have bias, but in the #1 show in the U.S. But what it does enable us to do is to tap into a much broader global network, to bring in not only speakers and resources from around the globe, because we're tied into a network now that has shows in England and France and are all around the globe. And we now have that as resources that we can pull from to bring in more of an international voice to our conferences here in America and to expand our influence around the globe. So it's all upside in that regard, but I honestly think that for DevLearn is DevLearn. That's one of the reasons that the CloserStill Media Group wanted to work with us in DevLearn, is because it's just such a great show, and they don't want to change it. They want to just be a part of it. And we're excited to have them be supporting our group in the future.
Now you said something I didn't know just a couple of minutes ago. Jane Bozarth is the research director for eLearning Guild now?
Yes.
I did not know. Congratulations to her.
I've been friends with Jane for a number of years, so when I knew she was retiring from her long-term job with the North Carolina government, I started having conversations. So what are you planning to do after that, Jane? And it worked out great. I mean, she does a great job for us. She's always been a great voice for our industry, trying to help people do their jobs better. So to have her as our research director is something
that's
that I'm really
great.
happy
I did know. That's a good choice, and she's fun too. She knows a lot, and that's great. Is she going to be at DevLearn, I imagine?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she'll be there.
I'll search her out. I think I've actually never met her in person. I think we've crossed paths by minutes, and we haven't gotten to meet. She's been on the show a whole mess of times, and I know her, and so that's good. That's good to hear. So that's
absolutely
a bit of news I missed somehow. So
there's so much to keep track of.
There's so much to keep up with, and has that been about a year already or more?
At least a year, yeah.
At least a year. That's probably about the last time she came on the show. And she didn't talk about that, so it probably hadn't happened yet. So this is good.
Could be, yes.
It's good to know. So I'm looking forward to the show. It's always fun to go there and like you said, to see the tribe and the same people and different people. And I've always found it fun. One thing I do like about DevLearn a lot is that it's a lot of people, but it's never to the point you can't get around. It's still easy to get around and meet folks, and even in the conference area, it's roomy enough that you're not stuck. You can always get to see what you're seeing, and it's pretty easy to map your way of who you want to meet and what kind of vendors you want to look at. Talk a little bit about the Expo. How many vendors are going to be at the Expo this year, and any new vendors, things that are happening?
Sure. The Expo is going to be our biggest Expo yet. We'll probably, I think we have somewhere in the realm of over 150 different vendors in the room. Wow. And that room is going to be packed. It's going to be great. But one of the things you touched on in terms of the environment, one of the things that's always been part of what we try to do at the Guild is to find the right space for the right amount of people. So yeah, we'll have 4,500 people in the building this year, and all of them are going to be funneling through that Expo. But it's set up in a way that it's got the right space for that, so that people can go in, they can have the conversations that they have. We've got a lot of great, you see all the players that you used to seeing, the big players in our industry, they'll always be in our Expo. But it's one of the things I love about our Expo is you always get to highlight some of the new players in the space. Mm-hmm. Some of the exhibitors who are going to be there for the first time, trying to show up their unique value, showing some of the new and interesting platforms that are out there. I mean, between authoring tools and learning platforms and all the different data tools that are out there, there's just such a scope of fabulous things that are there. I mean, I know a lot of times people come to the conference, but really in many ways it's the Expo that showcases the latest and greatest stuff, because it's the vendors who are out there building these tools that are really driving a lot of the change in our industry. Yeah. So I always recommend anybody who comes to DevLearn, make sure you allocate time to go into that Expo, because it is a showcase of all the wonderful things that are going on and what the vendor community is doing to drive our industry forward.
And you also do things like to highlight, not a competition per se, but people highlight the courses that they've built. There's voting on who were the good ones, how well they did, and that's always exciting. That's always fun.
Oh, it's the DemoFest. So
The DemoFest,
it's the last,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what it is. We do that at DevLearn every single year. It's one of the showcase parts of DevLearn. It's always been one of my favorite parts of the event, even before I joined.
It's inspirational because people go, I could do that. That's cool.
Yes,
you get ideas.
It's exactly it. I mean, it's a science fair-like exhibition, and yes, there is voting and there's awards, but that's, in my opinion, that's always been secondary to just sharing. I mean, it's not about necessarily who's the best. It's two sides. It's one, being able to see real projects from real people, speak to the people that design them, understand what they are, what it is that they did, what challenge they were trying to do, why they made the design and development decisions that they did. And it's such a great opportunity for people to show their work and learn from one another. And the flip side of that is the people who are actually exhibiting. And as much as it's a great experience to be an attendee and walk around and see all these projects, the people who are exhibiting get their own wonderful experience of getting feedback from peers and the questions that I always love talking to people who are in DemoFest, and they're always so energized by the questions that they're asking, what they learned about their own projects by sharing it with other people. It's a couple of hours. We'll have over 100 different people sharing their projects in that room. It is just one of my favorite parts of the event.
Yeah, and if you are going to the show, definitely go see the DemoFest because you'll be inspired by what people are creating, thinking outside that proverbial box, if you will, but it'll give you ideas. And that alone probably is worth the price of admission. You go back with a lot of ideas of things you can do because people are doing them. So that's exciting. That's always a good thing to see and do. And not to mention the show on the whole is just a lot of fun. So
yeah, well, the other thing I would add, for specifically to DemoFest, but just in general, DemoFest is part of the overall DevLearn conference experience, but it's also part of the Expo experience. You have the conference that people can pay to go to attend the entire conference. But if you just wanted to come to Las Vegas and go to the Mirage for the Expo, that's completely free. And DemoFest is part of that. You can go to DemoFest just with an Expo Plus ticket. So if you're interested in checking out what it is and you're not necessarily able to come for the whole conference, still join us for the Expo because DemoFest is part of that.
Sounds good. Well, for you people watching, if you haven't signed up, what dates are the conference?
The conference takes place October 23rd through 25th at the Mirage in Las Vegas. We've got pre-conference workshops and co-located events taking place on the 21st and 22nd. But the main conference is the 23rd to the 25th, and the Expo is the 23rd and 24th.
Yep. So if you haven't made your reservations, it's still not too late. Don't think you can't. There's always room available, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are, as much as there's a lot of people there this year, we haven't reached capacity if we can't invite any more people into the conference. We sold out of the Mirage Hotel, but we have lots of hotels in the area that people can stay at. So yeah, there's still space if you want to join us.
Sounds great. Well, David, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on. I look forward to seeing you in less than a month, and I wish you the best. Safe travels on the way out there, and have fun at the show.
Thanks so much, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll hope to see you in Las Vegas or somewhere down the road. Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you soon, and in Las Vegas. Definitely make it a point to be there. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you next week on eLearnChat. Take care. Bye-bye.